do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
What's up, everybody? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So, I am talking about the 76ers again. This is a team that I'm talking about probably more than I should. I've talked about them a couple of times now, made a few videos on the Sixers, but I think they're worthy of talking about because I've been kind of going through the last couple of weeks and sort of highlighting teams who are playing well and teams who are playing poorly. And today on the docket, the Sixers are absolutely a team that is playing very well right now. And it's reminding me of kind of how I felt about them going into last year, because prior to last season, I picked the 76ers to make the finals out of the Eastern Conference. I had it as Clippers versus Sixers. And I know that was both of those teams kind of went up in smoke, but I know a lot of people were really high on this team as well as the Clippers. I feel like this team is a great parallel for the Clippers. They're kind of the Clippers of the Eastern Conference because it's a team that everybody was really high on. They look super good on paper, and then just for whatever reason, things didn't go well for them last year. Never quite got it all put together. Never really looked like they were playing fully as a team and up to their capabilities. And then in the offseason, they made a couple of changes, switched up the coaching staff. Now they have a new front office, and, they made some changes to the roster as well. So very, very similar to what the Clippers have done. And so far for Philly, it looks like it's worked out quite nicely. Now, again, this is very early. This is 6 games into the year, but they're 5-1 right now. And it's 5-0 with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid didn't play a game against the Cavaliers, and that's the game that they lost. But the game that every game that he's played, they've won. And they've looked super good while doing it. And there is one specific thing here that I think is really the key for this team. And it's a major reason why I was a lot higher on them this year than maybe a couple other people would have been. Now, I didn't have them as a super high seed in the Eastern Conference. I still think they might go through a couple struggles in the regular season, and there are a few teams out there that I think are a little bit better than them, but maybe I should have gone with a more bolder take, maybe a take that I wanted to have, and rank them a little bit higher, because I felt like I kind of hedged a little bit on Philly, maybe just because this is a weird roster, as compared to last year. It's very different, but I do like the direction this team is trending in, and I wanted to kind of talk about a couple of the things that I've seen from them this year and why I think Philly is going to turn it around and have a better season this year than they did last year. And it starts with their 2 stars. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons have both had fantastic starts to the year. Looking at it from a points per game perspective, Simmons is only averaging around 13, which is a little bit lower than he has over the course of his career. But if we're looking at his other numbers here, let's see if I can find these really fast. He's averaging 1.6 blocks, 1.6 steals, 6.4 assists, 9.4 rebounds. That's the Ben Simmons thing, man. He's going to be playing all-around game, be great defensively. He's going to be able to contribute on the glass, on the assists, and all that kind of stuff. His impact is beyond his points per game. He's going to be this glue guy for this team this year. They don't necessarily need his scoring as much as from some other guys, like Joel Embiid, right? Joel Embiid averaging 26.5 points per game on good efficiency. These stats are all from prior to tonight's game, because Basketball Reference hasn't updated with the game against the Hornets from tonight. But through 4 games for Embiid, it's 26.5 points on good efficiency, and if he keeps this up, he's going to find himself in the conversation for things like the MVP award if he can stay healthy and the team is performing well, make an All-NBA team, starting in the All-Star game, all that kind of good stuff. Embiid is now 26 years old. He's entering his physical prime, and assuming that he can, keep those injuries away, this is going to be a really big season for him. And I definitely think Embiid can take this team, to another level, because now I feel like they have the right pieces around him. Him and Simmons are both, growing more into their physical prime and figuring out more and more how to play together. I think they have a better coach this year with Doc Rivers, and like I said, the roster fits a lot better around him. So that's what I want to get into next, is around their 2 stars. Some of the other guys, that are making up the rest of this roster, and how Daryl Morey has kind of flipped this team from a team that did not fit at all last season to one that I think makes a lot more sense. So the guy that I think fixes all of this for Philly, and really, I really think this is a big swing piece for them for this season, and a move that they made over the offseason that I absolutely loved. And I made a comment about this in my video about the Dallas Mavericks a couple of weeks ago, and it was the Josh Richardson for Seth Curry trade, and I talked about how I loved this move for Philly, and I didn't love it as much for Dallas, and I'm going to double down on that because I really do believe that Seth Curry is going to be an absolutely huge piece for the Dallas Mavericks this season, and I'll tell you why. What was the thing that the 76ers lacked the most last year? What was it? What was the number one thing that they did not have? Floor spacing. That's the number one thing. They didn't have a lot of shooters. A lot of their guys on the roster were playing out of position. They didn't have a lot of guys who could shoot at an above average level. And Daryl Morey came in this offseason, took one look at the roster, looked at the numbers from last year and said, this is what we needed to do. We're going to go out and get one of the best shooters in the entire league in Seth Curry. This man is shooting right now for this season 51.9% from three. Again, this stat is from before tonight. So through 5 games for him, 52% almost. For his career, he shoots around 45% from three. In case you're not aware, that's better than his brother on much lower volume, but that is better than Steph Curry. That's one of the best, like, historical three-point shooting percentages of all time. He was the third best three-point shooter in the league last year, percentage-wise, and he was doing it on, more volume than a couple of the guys above him. Seth Curry is if you're comparing him to Josh Richardson, right, you're doing the swap for the two of them. Richardson's a better defender, and they needed some perimeter defense, and so that's why they brought in Josh Richardson, and he was able to do that. He's an average shooter, an okay ball handler, okay passer, okay scorer. He's an overall just solid player in a lot of different areas of the game, but there's not one thing that he's elite at, right? Josh Richardson he's a good, perimeter defender. He's not an elite perimeter defender. You're not mentioning him in the same breath when you're talking about guys like Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson, all those guys. You can go up and down the list, right? Like Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, whoever. Josh Richardson, he's close, but he's not quite on that level. And then, like I said, he has a lot of other skills that he's, pretty good at, but not an elite player at anything. Seth Curry, not an awesome defender, but the thing is they have some other guys that can help bail him out. They have guys like Matisse Thybulle. Tobias Harris is also a pretty solid guy. At least he has the length to do it. Ben Simmons is one of the better defenders in the league. And Joel Embiid is a good defensive center. So the 76ers do have defense, but they were missing shooting, and they swapped this out. Seth Curry is an elite shooter. Elite shooter. And so, just bringing him in, you can already see the impact he's having. He's, spreading out the floor for his teammates. There's a lot more room out there for, Embiid to go to work in the post, for Ben Simmons to go to work in the post, Tobias Harris to find his mid-range shot. And it's just, you can see the impact there where teams have to guard Seth Curry on the perimeter. Whereas last year, there really was nobody on this team that they had to do that for. So Seth Curry, to me, was a huge addition for them in the offseason. Like I said, maybe you could argue that for Dallas that it was a better roster need for them to have Josh Richardson in there, but honestly, I just take Seth Curry as a player over Josh Richardson every day of the week. I just think his elite shooting skill is at a premium in the NBA right now. That's why he got that big contract that he did, and I definitely think this is going to pay big dividends for Philly as the season goes along. We see it already. He's averaging a career high in points, 15.2. I don't expect that to hold. I think it'll dip a little bit as it goes into the season. He's not going to shoot over 50% from three for the year, but the point is that he's exactly what this team needs, and he's really, really good at what he does. So Seth Curry was a huge addition for the Sixers, and I think it's going to be a huge impact for them. And then you look at the rest of the roster, and I honestly like what I see here. If you take a look, Tobias Harris is having an amazing start to his season. There's been a big deal made about how he's now back under Doc Rivers, which is the coach that he had when he was playing with the Clippers a couple of years ago, and that was probably the best season of his career under Doc. And so now, he's back under that same coach where he was the most productive, and it's looked like it's working so far. He played an awesome game tonight against Charlotte. He was able to score the ball efficiently, moving the ball, picking up the pace, space, being able to, play to his strengths. And so Tobias Harris hopefully will have a better year for them this year than he did last year. Even though that contract is huge, he's still a player who can, come in and contribute for you. And then you look at the rest of the rotation. Shake Milton, hopefully he'll take a jump and as he ages up and gets a little bit older. Furkan Korkmaz is another one of the shooters on this roster that's there to space the floor. He doesn't have such a burden on him now that they've added Seth Curry, as well as Danny Green, who right now is shooting very, very poorly from three. I think it's around 20%, which is funny because Danny Green, for all of the people who made fun of him last year, he didn't perform super well in the playoffs with the Lakers. But we forget that this is one of the best three-point shooters of the last decade. People just forgot that he was awesome in the finals last year, or I guess 2 years ago now, with the Raptors. He was absolutely killing the Warriors in that series. Trust me, you guys know I'm a Warriors fan. Danny Green was driving me crazy with all the shots that he was hitting. And so it's just he'll eventually find his shot. Right now, he's in a slump, 20%, but we know he has those breakout moments, and he'll eventually find his shot. So that's another shooter on the roster. Now, it's not just Korkmaz anymore. It's now him along with Curry and Green, and that's going to be able to really spread the floor out for Philly, and they can put 3 shooters on the floor at one time, which I think is going to be huge for them. Mike Scott is another guy who plays in the rotation. Dwight Howard on a minimum is a good backup center, and Tyrese Maxey, it looks like he can play right away as a rookie, and so you've got a ton of guys here who I think the roster fits a lot better, and I really think it's the shooting that's going to help them a lot, but also just their stars entering their physical prime here. Philly they're almost now underrated because there was a lot of people who picked them to be really good prior to last year. Things didn't work out, and now people are kind of low on them again. And it's the similar deal with the Clippers, where a team loses in the playoffs, they kind of have a collapse job there, things don't go their way, and all of a sudden it's like the team sucks. Whereas realistically, there's always a chance that a team comes back and looks how we expected them to. It just takes them a little bit more time to get there. So for me, the Sixers and the Clippers, I think, are both teams that we need to take a little bit of a longer look at. Not saying that, I consider either of them to be favorites to win the title or anything, but maybe we should be a little bit more optimistic on a couple of these teams, because we don't necessarily have to look at the way things ended last year when we're making predictions about how good they might be after making some changes to the roster. It's a new season. So yeah, man, Philly, I'm a little bit more optimistic on them than I think couple other people are. Maybe I should have gone with the bolder take in my offseason prediction, my standing predictions for them, because I really did want to put them higher, but I just couldn't justify it at the time. But with the way they're playing right now, man, I feel like I should have gone for it. Anyway, that's about all I got tonight on the Philadelphia 76ers. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a like, ring the bell if you want to. Leave a comment letting me know what you think about Philly. Am I right or am I wrong for having them, maybe being a little optimistic about the Sixers? Am I just going to look like a sucker and they lose in the playoffs again? I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, with all that said, I will see you guys in the next one.